Hey, agency owners and digital marketing enthusiasts. Welcome to another exciting episode of the $5 million Milestone Podcast, where Tim Kelsey and I pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build and scale a digital marketing agency. Today, we're joined not by one, but two guests. Chris Delany is the founder of SEM Geeks, and Pete Schauer is the marketing director of SEM Geeks, an innovative agency that's been in the digital marketing space for 17 years. So with no further ado, hi, Pete, and hi, Chris. Welcome to the program. How are you today?
Hey guys. Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Great.
well?
Excited to be chatting with you all.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's been good,
Same
guys.
here.
Really good time to be
All right.
chatting too. A lot of stuff kind of happening inside our businesses and industries. So great to be here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Chris, can you tell us about SEM Geeks, your origins, and how the agency's core value proposition has evolved over the inception? And you're mentioning those changes that are happening, and kind of how you guys are tackling it.
100%. I think one, to start off, 17 years in this game is a long time. Not necessarily a full career, but at a young 42, I feel like I've seen a lot. And when you look back at where we began, PPC Geeks was the name, right? Pay-per-click, which was kind of a hot name back in early 2000s, 2004, 5. Personally, I ran my first Google campaign in 2000 out of a college dorm room. And I was lucky enough to spend money, waste it, and learn quickly at what this new frontier of paid media online would be. And so PPC Geeks came out about 2006 with the idea to streamline lead generation for small businesses, medium-sized businesses at that time. I remember speaking to business owners and them saying to me, I'm in the yellow pages, which again, to say that word in 2024 is crazy. But they were telling me how successful they were, right? And I was a young chap then and chatting with them, and they said, hey, I've done good. I don't need the web. I know that's new and it's hot, but it's not going to be the way that we get business. By 2007, that tone had changed. Those people were calling up and saying, hey, I missed the boat, or I'm missing the boat. How do I get involved? And at that point in time, it was really just a straightforward strategic lead gen system, right? Because it was so cheap at that time on Google. For instance, you were getting clicks for 3 cents, 2 cents a click, converting leads for service companies at $10 a lead, $20 a lead, $6 a lead. That lead would generate thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands. So at that time, it was really game changing, and we scaled pretty quickly just around the paid media side of things. But even in that first year, I knew that wouldn't be the same for years to come, right? Because I saw what we were disrupting at that time. And back in 2004, 5, 6, we were disrupting traditional media very harshly, right? And I didn't know it, not intentionally. But by 2008, 9, when the crisis hit economically, those traditional media firms really tanked. And I was in talks with a lot of them at the time, and everybody was moving over to paid media, search engine optimization. And so we started to expand who we were. We changed our name, SEM Geeks, which broadened the field a little bit at the time. But we started to cover a lot more of the journey on the web. Web design became a part of our game. Mobile design, mobile app design. So we started to see it not just from the transaction of the lead, but really from the journey of what that lead becomes or what that contact can become for you, not in that year or that week, month, but where do they come for the longevity of your brand. And so that started probably 12 years ago, and the evolution, and obviously over the last 10, it's become a fragmented web world where you're not leaning on one channel, a service, or tactic, and you need a team that can really clearly define, based on where you're at, what bandwidth your team has and what your goals are, what's the strategy that works for you. And that's kind of where we've gone to today. And we're in the midst of a changing again. Intelligence and AI is I've seen about 3 game-changing technologies in my career over 20 years. And this is the 3rd one, and it's a big one. And if you're not adapting to this, then I think you're really going to struggle to fit the need of what the companies are wanting. So that's just some of the background of how it evolved there. But
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, marketing is an industry that, when you're getting into it, you're signing up for change, that it's not this stagnant thing that you can figure out one solution and stick with that for 10, 15 years. It's like every 5 years, there's some big shift that causes everybody to go, oh, now we got to change our agencies again to adjust to whatever is happening, that Google has changed or new technology has been released or whatever it might be. So we've gone through those same shifts as well over the years, where you just realize, oh, we're going to get left behind if we don't adjust to what the market is demanding.
Yeah. And it's tough to do that because you have to give up a little bit of your core model in order to make that change, right? A lot of people get content. And I think what we've seen over the years, just with all businesses, not even just in our vertical, right, but in all industries, as I worked with them and our teams worked with them, and you speak to where they grew and where they struggled, there's evolutions of the company and the service. And if they're not adapting, and a lot of them, as they scale and get bigger, it's harder to change, right? And it leaves a pocket for smaller companies to come in and adapt and do things. So really the critical thinking of our agency today revolves around understanding that, and the digital web being the forefront for that change, right? Whether it's CRM, web-based technologies, it's a hybrid of all of these things in the marketing spectrum still. And so I think that's really the tougher part to digest. That does change every 5 years, but it's every 10 or 15 that you have a significant change like we're dealing with now. So I would say like social media is definitely one of those big changes, mobile, but AI kind of, in my mind, almost trumps both of those, right? It's so I think that's the addition to it this time around, and the speed at which this change is happening. Again, if I go back to 2004, speaking to the person, they were in Yellow Pages for 20 years, right? That's a nice longevity of life. When they said that to me, I looked at myself and looked at our team and I said, we don't have 20 years to runway, right? And I said that in 2006, 7. As we had a good year, we had a better year, you would really bring back down to earth, like, guys, it's not going to last forever, and you've got to adapt. And I'd say we've gotten better at adapting over the 17 years, and that's been, I think, a key to our success there.
Yeah, it's so funny to think back to those early days. You mentioned 2004 in the yellow pages. It makes me think of our start. We got started in 2008. And even then we were having clients sign up who came to us with websites that looked like they were built on GeoCities. And they're just like, just starting out to get their first professional website. We've really come so far in the years since then. So yeah, I think a lot of those things, it's really telling to see. I think you made such a good point about Yellow Pages worked for 20 years. And the next thing after that worked for 10 years. And those timeframes are going to get shorter and shorter as technology progresses faster and faster. So yeah, really interesting to see everything that's going on there. I definitely want to circle back to AI at some point in our conversation. But first, Pete, I have a question for you, sort of thinking about how SEM Geeks has changed over the years. We were talking about shifting from, selling single services here or there, someone signing up for a PPC campaign, to a more holistic approach to marketing, where they maybe expect some level of consulting and strategy involved. What sort of challenges did you face as you had to go through that transition in your agency, or how did you change your teams? How are they set up today to be able to deliver that kind of strategic planning?
Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment. We were so single service, retainer based, kind of recurring, smooth sailing for so many years, and it was great. Like Chris said, we always knew that runway wouldn't always be there. So where we're at today, it's definitely a lot more consultative. I think the industry has kind of dictated that we, become more consultative in our approach. That's definitely strengthened our client relationships too, I feel. Right? When you're getting on calls and just kind of, going off numbers on a report, it's kind of, cut and dry. But when you've got, adding consulting and there's new technologies and emerging technologies, it kind of just opens the door for increased communication, which definitely was a change for our team. So like account management became staple for us. No longer could we just have one production person, handling the production of the campaigns, the reporting, the client communication, the back and forth. We knew we needed to kind of focus on those client relationships. So, one thing we did was just make sure that every client had, a go-to account manager that was going to be responsible for the relationship, responsible for the communication, and just the overall organization and ownership of that client account. A secondary thing we did was take more of a pod mentality when it came to our clients. So trying to match each client with, a pod of talented individuals at SEM Geeks who were either vertical specific and or service specific as well. So kind of getting a little bit more integrated and not just having one person that the client can go to, but having, a team of individuals that either specializes in their industry, their vertical, or their service to kind of, provide that deeper client experience that maybe we didn't have, 12 years ago when I started.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering too, were there any challenges with the team adjusting to that different structure or new responsibilities they might have had to take on as you kind of had to step your game up and deliver more to your customers?
Yeah, I think, everybody, when you're in marketing, you're typically a creative person, you typically have, that good client communication, that good personality. So I don't think it was too big of a shift for our team. I think it was more just an agency mentality to try to, come up with and really educate and learn and train on what some of these emerging and upcoming technologies were. That way, when we get on calls with clients, one, we're not kind of caught without knowing, where things are at, or what is next and up and coming. But, we've always kind of prided ourselves on giving our clients value outside of just the service we're providing. And there was a long time there, and it's still happening, but clients would come to us and say, hey guys, anyone can run a paid search campaign for me, anyone could build me a website, but not every agency is giving me those great new ideas or that level of strategy that you guys are providing at no extra cost. It's just kind of part of the account, part of the conversation when we speak to you guys. And that's kind of what, keeps us coming back and working with you guys. So it was more just kind of seeding that down to the team. I don't think anybody really needed to change their approach. It was just more guiding our team and just saying, hey guys, this is becoming a much more consultative, service for us. Things are getting more integrated, technology's changing. And, adaptation is going to be the single thing that's going to kind of keep this agency moving forward.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in some ways, that's similar to our experience in pushing to level up our skill set, that a lot of the talent and knowledge is already there. It's just a matter of, as a agency leader, guiding those team members in the right direction of saying, here's what we're trying to accomplish as a whole team, rather than you just are managing your ad campaigns and that's your only focus. It's about understanding
Exactly.
what is being delivered to that customer in total.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, as you can imagine, with that transition trying to happen on top of a remote world that came into play, processes were key. So luckily, again, a good core team that you're building upon, but I'm sure each agency is a little different depending on your size and scale at that time to bring that in and really do it well. And I think what Pete described there was a good phase one, and right now we're in like a phase two of that type of next level connection with our clientele, who are demanding even more lately, right? Where almost it's and just to go back to that piece on the CRM, analytics, and marketing tracking, and making sure that's all fluid. That's a gap that a lot of places are seeing, and I think where Pete and the teams that he's built out are filling that gap a lot more lately for our clientele, and the value is growing greatly, because without those bridges fixed, the marketing doesn't make sense, right? So and a lot of companies have been paralyzed there in terms of making that work or having the bandwidth internally to understand it all. So I think that's a key component of that change. Is it's more than just that consultation. It's actually, there's tangible pieces to that pie that are now being very clear that there's a service product for us to serve that.
Yeah, especially with cookie tracking continuing to drop off a little bit and becoming more and more gray every year. Those CRMs have really become, they've always been the brain center, but I think now, one day we're not going to have the tracking, so we're just going to have the click through of the ad, the click through of the organic search listing, and hopefully gets into the CRM, and we're going to have to try to backtrack from there. But like Chris said, sales enablement has definitely been something that we've helped our clients out with more and more every year. And I think that just kind of lends itself to that consultative nature, and really what they love, we bring to the table is, hey, what are you guys doing with the leads when they come through? Where are they being stored? How are you guys managing them? Are there any, nurturing systems in there? Is the sales team access? Are they accessing the leads? Are they following up with them? So kind of, uncovering a little bit their sales process, auditing it a little bit, trying to consult with them and help them, come up with a workflow that is going to be scalable for them. That kind of makes them a little bit more sticky to us as a client too. So it's kind of a win-win on both sides.
Yeah, I love that. We've definitely had clients where we've gotten them leads through SEO or a PPC campaign, and then had a monthly sync up with them and said, "Oh, what'd you do with this great lead that came in?" And they go, I didn't do anything."
Right.
You go, "Oh,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like, it's right there." And so
Yep.
there's so many businesses out there who need help with that sort of sales enablement and sales process stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes
Definitely.
it even starts at the mindset, right? Like, they don't value that relationship with that potential client the way they should, and because it's a short-term fix if they close a deal right then and there, right? But the long term is where the substantial growth comes from. And even if you don't win that relationship, they're going to go with someone else. They're in your system, though. How do you communicate to them over a quarterly cadence that you're there, right? Because it might be a bad job that client does for them that they went with. It might not happen. It might be too pricey. They might hear something. There's so many ways to maximize that contact downstream, that people are leaving that on the ground and just going for new hard business. And that's a tough game today. That's a very tough game. I remember being able to do that for clients back in 2006, 2005, literally change a business and generate 3-4 times what they did the year before through paid media. That's not there today, and for people to think that that's the only way, it's a core way. It's a core way to grow it. But if you're not nurturing that data down through 3 or 4 times, you're going to get 2x, 2.5x on top of what you get on the front of it down chain. So if you're getting, a 3x return on hard leads, and you're not nurturing down that relationship, whether that be through mail or text or whatever that is, or retargeting or social engagement, you're losing another 2.5x on that conversion down the road, whether that be 6 months from now, a year from now. And that doesn't matter what business. That could be commerce online, or that could be lead gen for repair of your sewer drain, right? Like those parameters we're seeing are playing the same way in B2B and B2C. So, and that's taken 17 years because those patterns change, as we all know, but that's really the intelligence of the consumer today is that good in all aspects of everything. You guys know how to change the toilet more than the person that comes to do it because you watched a YouTube video. So all of that knowledge extends down, and it's tougher to track it, obviously. It's tougher to value it. But with the clientele that have bought into that, they're seeing that return magnified.
Yeah, and to your point, Chris, I mean, it used to be so much easier to get leads from Google Ads, right? I mean, clients would just start a campaign and there was so much less competition. But now, everyone is sort of caught up and everyone knows they need to invest in digital. They know they need to be front and center on Google. And so everyone's doing it. Everyone is hiring an agency to help them out. So I think you're absolutely right. The ability to sort of maximize the value of a lead along the entire customer journey, especially when you have 5 to 10 year lifetime value, which is quite frankly often the case in sort of smaller B2B type businesses. I mean, Pronto's had clients that pretty much since day one that are still with us today. But that also means that, running a PPC campaign is very different from kind of managing a CRM, working that data, putting together nurture campaigns. Like those skill sets aren't necessarily one-to-one. And, like you can either go a generalist approach or a specialist approach. How have you guys sort of managed to sort of balance having generalists who can provide as well, like more consultative advice and strategy versus as well as having specialists that also know the nitty gritty of all those different complex channels?
Yeah, well, one, it's definitely a tougher part of it, but having 16, 17, 18 years in the professional side of this, we've built out a network of talent in many different arrays of what we do, right? We were 7, 8 years very strong in the commerce side of what we did. We branched out into B2B. Right now, we're about 60-40 B2B to B2C. But our talent pool is strong, and I believe that the remote work mindset that lies in the digital space like we live in is benefited us to work and establish relationships with people within certain verticals and industries in our space and build relationships with them to work on certain accounts where we need that. Now, the glue comes from within who we are, right? We have the strategists and the leads to lay out that template and plan. But all of that has to go at twofold, Pierre, right? It's got to be at the client's pace, right? Which, although they need to do all these things, the budget might not be there. So I think where we excel is we can lay out that plan of what they might need and the talent that we have to fill those roles. But at the cadence that they can actually move at, let's start here. But they have a builder, a bigger plan, and it's a very agile approach. Some of the services we're kind of doing it as a teaching them to do it internally and build it internally. So it might be something where we know for a year or 18 months, we're going to be working this mail side of what they do for automations, but we also know that they might take that back inside house. And so through scaling our team the right way over the years and having certain talent base that we can come in and pull, and again, are in that space of, I'm no longer working for agency one. I'm working for myself, and I'm very talented and I'm really good at this space. And we have those relationships. So we bring them in. And I think, honestly, I think it's a whole change of how the agency dynamic works. And so, but that is how we're doing it right now. And obviously scaling that to, depending on what your goals are, can get harder. But we're finding that the talent pool out there is in the same alignment of I want value for what I know of very well, and I want to work on those types of projects, right? And they can through this format. So we've been able to do that. Obviously, we're probably in the first 2 years of the grander scale of that, which I've said. And we hope to continue down there. But that is probably a key part and will continue to be a pain point, right, of growth.
Yeah. I think too, this comes down to knowing your team too, right? I mean, we know our team very well, so we know when we need to bring in a certain specialist in, for a certain client. We know when a certain account manager is needed on a certain account based on, the client, who they are, our points of contact. So that, that pod model that we've been able to kind of develop, I think has worked out really well. And to Chris's point, we've been able to scale that talent pool by actually getting more consultative and getting more targeted with our approach, because we can now bring in specialists in different areas and really provide a great experience to the client.
Cool. Excellent. That makes a lot of sense. Changing gears a little bit, I think it's maybe time for us to get into AI. Pete, I'll throw this over to you first, but Chris, I'm sure you'll want to chime in a little bit too. What's been your approach to AI, and what aspects of it are you using? What areas of your business? Have you found any challenges with it? What's your take on it so far?
Yeah, good question. Obviously, very timely question. Yeah, I mean, I think when AI, it's weird to say when AI first came out, because we know that AI has been around for years. But I think in our industry, we're talking the ChatGPTs, the Google Geminis of the world. I would say we were at the forefront from an agency perspective in, adopting it, but adopting it very carefully. There was a lot of training that went on with our team in the beginning. Just live Google Meets where we went through, hey, this is ChatGPT, hey, this is Gemini, here's some different prompts. The thing that we really stressed in the beginning, and still do, of course, is just, you've got to proofread. We can't just be copying and pasting from a ChatGPT or something like that. So it's kind of, I think, working the model. And I think, take a step back, it was understanding what these models are, where it's pulling its data from, how to work the machine to kind of get the right information that you need, and to kind of use it to work, smarter, not harder. So, areas we're using it in, things like different ad copy testing, content creation, audience segmentation, things like that. Primarily through like a ChatGPT or Gemini. There's some different Slack integrations that we're testing out, for our productivity. Notebook LM has been a really, crucial one for us more recently, being able to kind of almost develop our own mini models for different clients. That's been, I would say, it's probably the biggest game changer for us recently is, being able to sync up all these different sources to Notebook LM and not having to crawl through, was that in email? Was that in Google Drive? Was that in Slack? We can kind of have this central point where we can go in and we can have our mini model to the client and get the information that we need based on data or information that we've already collected. Again, we know it's changing very quickly. We're always testing out different tools. Our design team tests out different, integrations for what they need. Our marketing team's testing out different things for what they need, whether it be, the SEO team testing out some on-site tools, could be the content team testing out some different, content creation tools or, scheduling tools and things like that. But, I think it's changing quickly, it's happening quickly, and we are using it, but we're being very careful with how we use it and who we use it for.
Yeah. I think across the whole spectrum of the agency, it's used, right? Different departments use it for different things. Everything from the onboarding of new talent down to optimizing data points, whether it be in our internal sales force and how many Slack conversations are happening a day, right? Well, is that productive? Tell me what that means across our agency of our size. Is there too much productivity going on? Is there too much chitter chatter? So there's little ideas of just exploring it from that view and letting it kind of speak to us. Well, with this many people and this many chats, it means that the teams will only have this much free time to get work done, right? And those are things that have been problematic across the agency since its inception, right? Bandwidth is always a big problem. So if there's ways to start to use that, we're looking toward it. As Pete then said, back down to our clientele. If you think about what we were talking about before with talent pools and pods, right? So our core teams that are leading that are really building up that notebook over time. So if anybody gets inserted into that pod, they can have conversations within that notebook, and we already have prompts set aside as to, I am a new paid media manager on this account, right? Coming from this background, I worked on Fortune 100, Fortune 1000, yada, yada, yada. Outline for me an onboarding of the pay-per-click review data, yada, yada, over the last quarter year, yada, yada. And that gives someone who's coming into the gateway, which, as you said, was a very problematic thing. I'm sure for an agency, you lose a talent piece, try to bring someone in, it's getting them connected. They can probably get connected 100 times faster than what they would have had they not, right? So we're using it there. The reporting, where our team is very analytical and very term heavy in our world. How do we dumb this down for client B, who we know is the owner operator of the business compared to other companies, which it's marketing directors and analytics, and they'll give them that little brief. So I think it's empowering our team to not be scared of it. Obviously, be cautious of it. Use it. I like to take it as like that friend in school that helped you out with your homework all the time, and they're there for you. Use it, but you better be looking at it, and you better be understanding it yourself, because you got to be able to expand upon it. And so it's endless where it's going. I think it's part of our service value too. A lot of our clients, as we were learning this, were asking us, we would say things that we think are just common, right? Like some here, and they're like, wow, why don't I do that? And all of a sudden their conversations are coming around AI and not even the marketing side on top of it. So I think there's a lot there that people in our world, meaning us with 10, 15 years of tech experience, web marketing, a hybrid of it all, and there's a product to be maintained, at least at the current value, to these companies. It might be consultative. It might be a workshop through your onboard. We've worked more in the last 3 years with getting talent for companies because the demand has been so high. And then I look at, we do a good job at getting leads in for talent. I said, how do you handle that talent when it comes down? You keep saying we can't hire anyone. Oh, they're all, it's all over the place. We don't have the people to filter through who's good, who's not. So you think of just quick links to send them. Here's an HR tool using AI. All the things come through and it scans it and says yay or nay for you to get to next level. That value to them might have saved them a week and a half of time. And it was just a suggestion. So that's the mindset we're really trying to instill and change, which is hard because everyone was kind of used to their silo. And so AI is, again, going to continue to be, as we know, and as most people are looking at how it's interrupting their world of business, SEM Geeks looks at it as where do the opportunities arise for our clients, for our services, and it's hard to keep that mindset, but when you do, you start to come up with the ideas, you start to lead the ideas, you start to feel out this is a service, let's make it a service. And so that's how we've been embracing it, trying to keep the team positive and not worried about 10 years from now or where their career is going to be. I think if you're really smart and you're okay with change, you'll maximize this here the way a lot of people did the last 10 shifts that have happened over the last 100 years, right?
I really like that perspective of getting the team members on board and not afraid of it. I mean, we've all thought about, is AI going to replace us one day? But the way I've talked to our team about it is, it's not that AI is going to replace you right now. It's that the person who knows AI, how to use AI better than you, is the person who's going to replace you. So you need to be learning this, learning how to leverage it in your job. That's how you maintain and don't get replaced right away. Is like you learn to accept and embrace the new tool that's come along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We had a woman, Nabila Moomin, speak at our conference this summer from HubSpot. She did a great presentation on it. She had a quote that always stuck out with me that I still like to recite. So it was, AI won't replace marketers. Marketers using AI will replace those who aren't. And that's kind of stuck with us, I think, since she said that quote on stage in June. And it's something we still see down to our team, because again, I think there was a minute there when it really blew up where, we were nervous for a second. Hey, is he going to take our job? Where are we going to fit? Where are we not going to fit? And honestly, outside of just the productivity side, I think it's going to benefit us from a service side too. We have projects now where we're consulting with clients and we're getting paid to help them develop models and develop prompts and to teach them how to use this, for their business and their industry. So it's been a game changer, and one that's been positive for us for sure.
All right. Well, Chris and Pete, this is a great conversation. Thanks so much for sharing all your insights on how you're adapting to AI and all those disruptions. For sure, we're feeling the change ourselves, and I know a lot of other marketers are feeling it too. But if anything, it's a very exciting time.
Mm-hmm.
I think being part of an agency, one of the great things is you have opportunity to innovate. And I think, AI is just one of those other challenges that we just have to tackle.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah. So if our listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you guys?
Petey, I'll let you handle.
Yeah. Website, semgeeks.com, LinkedIn, SEM Geeks Digital Agency, Instagram, SEM Geeks. Pretty much just, search SEM Geeks on any social media platform, website, search engine, you'll find us, and we'd love to connect with anyone to talk further.
All right. Well, thanks so much again, guys. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, subscribe to the $5 Million Milestone Podcast, share it with another agency owner who's looking to break through their current limitations, and let us know what you learned. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, embrace change, and keep chasing that $5 million milestone.